Hope in Roots. The theme is Hope is Life by Andrea, Carlos, and Marquise. Hope is life. Without hope, life will not be able to continue. It is as if hope establishes a light to a person's darkness.
Kunta Kinte's birth was the first example of how hope is life. His father was pacing back and forth, hoping that the delivery of Kunta would go smoothly. Later in the scene, when Kunta was born, it showed how his birth could bring a village or family together. We also see how Kunta Kinte's father later brings him to the top of the hill and holds him up to the sky, which showed how valuable his life would be and the meaning of hope was answered. This displayed the importance of hope is life because Kunta's life was shown to be more valuable in his father's and mother's eyes. Hope was also shown in the manhood training. This was a very significant part in Kunta's life that displayed hope because he showed his elders that he was worthy of becoming a man in many situations. One of them being when he volunteered to be the first person to go up against wrestler when everyone else was scared. The second time was when Kunta stepped forward in the event to get his photos cut. And doing this showed the elders he was ready to become a man while also giving them hope. These scenes displayed the meaning of hope because this showed how Kunta stood out from everyone else and continuously showed his elders that he was valuable and his life had a meaning. Furthermore, the theme of hope was also shown when Wrestler came up with a plan to defeat the white crew. He did this by encouraging the slaves to teach each other their neighbors' language so they can get a better understanding of each other. Then when they finally got to the dock and saw an opening, they all worked together to try and overthrow the white crew. This displayed the meaning of hope because it shows how one person's courage and determination can make even the doubtful have a change of mind and heart in tough situations.
Need. When observing Kunta's vision of himself and society through the lens of hope, there is the constant drawback to need. Throughout the viewing of Roots, Kunta seems to always need some type of connection back to Africa or Gambia. This is most prevalent through his resilience and devotion to returning home alongside his desperate dreamings to reunite with Fanta in a way that is just unrealistic. To some extent, it can be argued that Kunta is characterized as someone who is quite filial, with evidence pointing to his goal to make a drum for his little brother after pressure from his grandmother, and the sudden overwhelming devotion and priority of family when they are no longer there for him. Kunta is very prideful of where he comes from and his family at times. He will say, I am Kunta Kinte, son of Omaro and Binta from the village of Jufre, and I am a Mandingo warrior. This ties into his need to be the best. Kunta's pridefulness is a strong plot point throughout Roots. Kunta must stay true to himself or he feels he is giving into a societal assigned position as a slave to some extent. When compared to Fanta, someone who was brought to North America at the same time as him, in the same conditions, it becomes incredibly apparent between the contrast, those who adapt, though the most suitable term would be assimilate, and those who do not. The issue with this is though an admirable characteristic, it seems to be the root cause of many of Kunta's struggle and strife throughout the series. Kunta's need for hope is truly what has kept him alive throughout his time. Death and depression would surely be that which consumed him from the point of no return had he given up on hope. Hope to see Fanta and live the life he wants on his own terms is what allowed him to escape. Hope to not see himself or be seen by others as handicapped is what allowed him to walk and begin rehabilitation after his injury. The entire concept of hope is challenged throughout the production of Roots because the story of slavery is something that kills hope for oneself and civilization.
There are three scenes Roots where I believe hope is life. The first scene is a moment when Kunta Kente had escaped the plantation where he was held in hopes to find Fanta. The second scene is where Kunta Kente began to walk despite having his toes cut off. The final scene is where little Kizzie was born. The first example of a scene that supports the idea that hope is life, the escape from the plantation where Kunta had been held. The idea hope is life was presented in the escape scene because for Kunta, finding Fanta would be the key to creating a whole new life. Seeing how Kunta and Fanta origins had been in Africa, he believes that they would be able to live united. This is because hope of finding Fanta ever since she was sold off had resonated within him, which allowed his mind to believe in a new life and world where Kunta and Fanta and family would be able to live free. The importance of hope also played a role in the scene where Kunta had begun to walk. There was a scene prior to where Kunta began to walk where he had given up on life. Hope had diminished and seemed to be lost. When it got to this scene where Kunta had begun to walk, hope had risen once again. This scene had been able to depict that Kunta once again had established hope in continuing with life. He stood tall while being helped by his crutches and held a fierce, determined look on his face. Kunta was not going to let the missing toes stop him from walking ever again. He said, "I gonna do better than learn to walk. I gonna learn to run. Damn it, I gonna learn to run." He made up his mind and was going to make sure that he became stronger no matter what. In the last example scene, which was the birth of Kizzie, the statement that hope is life is also depicted. Kunta had made it clear that Kizzie was an amazing blessing, allowing Kunta to be able to have his very own family. Kizzie had become Kunta Kente's new hope for life. Another important example of hope is life is the meaning behind Kizzie's name. The meaning of the name Kizzy is stay put. Within Kunta's mind, body, and soul, he was done trying to run away to gain freedom. He was able to understand that raising Kizzy would be his hope in life. The meaning behind Kizzy's name was a symbol of Kunta's promise to himself and his family that he will never run away again.
Kunta was forced into a challenging social circumstance for reason of Western demonization of African culture and dehumanization of African and African diaspora persons. One is not expected to have hope in this position, but because Kunta is so determined, he persists and perseveres through his bondage because hope is what gives him life.